After her husband's funeral, the wife decided to repair his phone, but upon seeing a strange photo, she rushed to the cemetery. Rebecca Ramos opened her eyes. The morning sun was already peeking through the bedroom window, cheerfully calling her to wake up and start a new day. On the nightstand lay a dark burgundy rose and a handwritten note. Santiago was an incorrigible romantic, always coming up with something sweet and touching. Just now, the wife read a tender message from her husband. "My little star, today are important negotiations. If our company wins the tender, we'll celebrate fully in the evening. Our life promises to take a new turn. I love you to the point of dizziness. Santiago." Rebecca leaned back against the pillow and smiled. Her life had changed so much since she met that lovely guy, Santiago Ramos. He had painted her everyday life with vibrant colors. Before him, Rebecca couldn't even imagine how rich and interesting life could be and how many surprises each day held. Their relationship had developed like a whirlwind. Rebecca hadn't noticed how she became Mrs. Ramos. All that was missing for complete happiness was a baby, but the couple was actively working on it. Her phone signaled a message. Rebecca stretched her hand and lazily picked up her smartphone. It was from Chiqui, one of Rebecca's two friends. The other was Marita. They had been friends since school and were still best friends. They couldn't imagine life without each other. The three of them were so different. Marita was a family psychologist, always serious and thoughtful, while Chiqui, on the contrary, was whimsical and fickle. She often fell in love with the wrong guy. This phrase had become a catchphrase among the friends. Despite her frivolity, Chiqui was an excellent makeup artist. She frequently worked with photographers, and her clients never seemed to run out. Rebecca had also chosen a career she loved and became a literary editor, working remotely for a large publishing house. For her, it was a dream, not a job. Rebecca was the only one among her friends who had gotten married and dreamed of having a child. Marita and Chiqui, at 27, didn't even think about starting a family. The friends always shared their joys and sorrows. Now, Chiqui was writing about how unfair life was to her. She had evidently broken up with Roberto, with whom she had started dating about a month ago. Chiqui asked to meet up. Rebecca tossed aside her phone, liking the message, and got out of bed. The young woman had just enough time to take a shower when Marita called her. Bequita, her friend, always called her that. "Hi." Marita's cheerful voice rang out. "Hi. Did Chiqui call you too?" "How did you guess?" She laughed. "Let's meet at my place." "At yours?" "I thought we were going to Chiqui." "No, she got a bit carried away yesterday and broke something." "You know our Chiquita," Marita chuckled. "In short, we're meeting at my place." "Got it. I'll be there in half an hour. You can have breakfast. I already have everything ready." "Marita, darling, how do you manage to do everything? And why hasn't some wonderful young man caught you yet?" Rebecca was pulling on her jeans as she spoke. "I'll manage," Marita replied cheerfully. "I'm waiting for you, come." There were short beeps. Rebecca quickly dressed, hastily dried her hair with a hairdryer, applied lip gloss in 2 quick moves, and, stuffing the tube into her bag on the go, headed for the exit. "I thought we were serious," Chiqui wailed, clutching her tense tissue in her fist. Her eyes were swollen from tears, and she looked as if she had just been sentenced to 40 years of hard labor. She appeared incredibly unhappy. "Not the right guy," Marita stated firmly. "Not the right guy," Rebecca echoed, patting her friend on the shoulder. "Not the right guy, girls, not at all," Chiqui perked up a little. "How about we have some wine?" "Chiqui. At 9 in the morning?" Marita shook her head. "I actually have 3 consultations today. I'll pass." "Oh, girls, I'll pass too. I feel so awful inside. Maybe I overate shrimp yesterday." "Well, a friend is experiencing a catastrophe of cosmic proportions, and they both pass." Chiqui pouted. "Chiquita, how about some coffee? I have pastries." Your favorite ones, with pistachio cream. Cheeky extended. The true psychologist always steers things in the right direction, she quietly laughed. The friend sighed with relief. The cosmic scale wound was almost healed. That day, Rebecca truly felt out of sorts, she couldn't concentrate on work. A heavy feeling filled her entire being. Could the meeting with her friends have such an effect on her? It was strange. Rebecca had long gotten used to Cheeky's endless, albeit brief, sufferings, this romantic airhead always seeking new adventures for herself. That was just her nature. But Cheeky was also a very soulful person who never refused to help. The fact that 3 stray cats, which she had once rescued from the street and cared for, lived in her small inherited house spoke volumes. It was already around 8 in the evening, but Santiago had not yet arrived. Had he gone out to celebrate with colleagues? Rebecca dialed her husband's number. Voicemail. Was the meeting still going on? Suddenly, she felt a tightness under her breast. Anxiety stubbornly tried to take hold of the young wife's heart. Could something have happened? Her intuition rarely failed her. It didn't fail her this time either. Around 8:30, Rebecca received a call from the police, informing her that her husband, Santiago Ramos, had died in a car accident after losing control of the vehicle. The woman nearly dropped the phone. What? Rebecca found it hard to breathe. Where did this happen? Not far from your home. You need to come for identification tomorrow at 9 in the morning to settle some formalities, the officer stated. But, no. This can't be true. Tears flooded Rebecca's eyes. Mrs. Ramos, is there someone who can support you right now? It's very important. In your condition. Where do I need to go? Rebecca, devastated, tried to compose herself. I will send you the exact address and time. For now, please try to calm down as much as possible. He hung up. Rebecca sat on the living room floor. Her mind was a complete vacuum. Her Santiago, the romantic from another planet, would never again place a rose on her nightstand, would never kiss her as only he knew how. No. Why was the Lord sending her this terrible trial? What had she done wrong? A strong wave of nausea forced Rebecca to her feet. But she didn't make it to the bathroom. She vomited right onto the rug by the sofa. The sight of her own vomit made her feel even worse. Unable to bear it, Rebecca ran out of the house and dialed Marita's number on the go. Fortunately, she was already free, otherwise, she wouldn't have answered right away. What happened, Bequita? You sound strange, her friend asked anxiously. Marita. Santiago, he's gone, do you understand? Honey, what are you saying? Where are you? I'm coming to you. I can't be alone. I'm scared. I'm coming to meet you. Just don't worry so much. Please. Don't hang up, talk to me. It'll be easier for you. Okay. But I can't talk. I feel so bad. Marita. Do you want to meet just with me or call Cheeky? No, not Cheeky. I just need to gather myself a bit. It'll be easier with you. Much easier. All right. I can already see you, I'm coming. Within seconds, Marita was holding Rebecca in her warm embrace. It immediately felt a bit easier, as if the burden of the overwhelming tragedy had been partially lifted from the young woman's fragile shoulders. They sat in the living room, drinking the mulled wine Marita had prepared just recently. I couldn't find my place today. There was such a strange feeling inside. It was so heavy. Rebecca sniffled and took a sip from her glass. Bequita, that's awful. Did you find out what happened? Santiago always drove very carefully. I don't believe he just got distracted. They told me he swerved into oncoming traffic. He wasn't drunk. But why this happened, no one understood. He lost control, that's all the policeman said who called me. Marita, will you go with me tomorrow, for identification? Rebecca raised tear-filled eyes to her friend. Of course, my dear. Marita wiped a tear from her cheek and hugged her friend tightly. We're friends, close ones, the closest. Rebecca spent the night at her friend's place. She faced the terrible task of identifying her deceased husband's body. Rebecca lay in bed sleepless. She couldn't stop the swirl of dark thoughts circling in her head. Why did this happen? Santiago was such a good man, so kind and soulful. Why had the Lord taken him? Why punish her like this? They had dreamed of a big house, children, of their little ones running in the garden and picking fruit from the trees. All this would remain her dream. How would she live now without her beloved? How could she silence this pain? What would happen to her now? Rebecca fell into a heavy sleep. Several times during the night, she woke up, horrified to realize that her husband was gone and would never be beside her again. I feel sick, Rebecca said when they were driving home after identification. Not surprising, sweetheart. You're so sensitive. There are mint candies in the glove compartment. Take some. Rebecca popped 2 candies into her mouth. Phew, it's really better with them. Bequita, did you take a test? What test? She asked wearily. A pregnancy test. You've been feeling nauseous for 2 days now. I understand stress could be the cause, but... Are you late? I don't even remember when I never remember anything, Marita. Maybe it's worth checking? Rebecca shrugged and put a 3rd candy in her mouth. Marita's suspicions were confirmed. Rebecca was indeed pregnant. The test showed 2 lines. Oh my God, my poor baby. Tears rolled down Rebecca's cheeks again. I'm so stressed, and the funeral is coming up. Hang in there, darling, we'll be right here for you, me and Chiki. We'll always support you, and we'll tear apart anyone who stands in your way. Her friend smiled encouragingly, even though it was difficult for her. Thank you, Mari. It had been about 2 weeks since the funeral of Santiago Ramos. Rebecca decided to clean the house. It was such a mess that she felt ashamed in front of herself. Suddenly, on a shelf in the hallway, she discovered a bag. This bag had been given to her at the morgue. Inside were Santiago's phone, his watch, and some other small items. Rebecca tried to turn on the phone, but it didn't respond. Right. It must be dead. She quickly went to the bedroom and attempted to charge the smartphone. But nothing worked, the cord wouldn't fit into the port. Rebecca decided that it urgently needed fixing because there must have been tons of photos on it, their photos, where they were together, where they were so happy. Rebecca placed her hand on her still flat stomach. Inside was the fruit of their love and happiness. How he would have rejoiced if it weren't for that terrible tragedy that took his life. Who on earth broke it like this? The repairman said when Rebecca brought her husband's phone for repair. My husband. He was in an accident. Maybe it got damaged from the impact. I see, the young man in the denim overall smiled. I think it'll be ready in about 10 minutes. Rebecca really wanted to see the photos on Santiago's phone, but at the same time, it felt somewhat creepy. Perhaps she was afraid of the pain the memories would bring. Her husband loved to take pictures and to be photographed. His phone had thousands of pictures, and he often uploaded them to a dedicated hard drive. Rebecca opened the gallery. What? What was this photo? It was the very first one in the list. It was a strange photo. A monument with her picture, her date of birth, and, even more terrifying, with her date of death, May 7th, 2024. Today was May 19. I don't understand anything, Rebecca mumbled. How did this creepy photo end up on her husband's phone? What kind of joke was this? Or was it not a joke? Maybe someone sent this photo to Santiago? But who would need such a thing? It was just madness. Rebecca looked at the date of death once more. Chills ran down her spine. That was the date of Santiago's own death. Various thoughts flooded her mind. What if this was a curse, or someone simply wanted her death or Santiago's through her? Rebecca had edited books on mystical and esoteric content, but she never took it too seriously, and now she felt scared. She urgently needed to discuss this with her friends. Rebecca sent both of them a message with the same content: "We need to talk urgently." Cheeky was the first to arrive without questions. That day she happened to have a day off. "Marita will be here in about 15 minutes, Cheeky said, out of breath from walking quickly. She hurried into the living room and flopped onto the couch. "Cheeky, I'm sure that the death of my Santiago was not accidental," Rebecca suddenly said. Her voice trembled. "What? Why do you think that?" Her friend stared at her, eyes wide open. "Look," Rebecca extended Santiago's phone. "What the heck is this?" Cheeky began to examine the photo of the monument carefully. "Where did you get this? Did someone send you this photo?" "No, I found it on Santiago's phone. I just had it repaired today, and then I opened the gallery and... Oh my God! This is definitely some kind of witchcraft. Maybe Santiago had an admirer, or worse, a mistress. Yes, for sure. She decided to scare him or you. In short, there's definitely some magic involved here." "What magic?" A voice suddenly came from the hallway. Cheeky and Rebecca screamed. They hadn't noticed the door opening or heard footsteps. "Marita, why do you scare us like that?" Cheeky exclaimed and ran to meet her friend. "I almost fainted," Rebecca exhaled. "Oh, I didn't mean to scare you, my golden girls." Marita hugged her friends in turn. A minute later, she was carefully examining the photo. "So, the photo shows May 7th of this year," Marita said slowly. She spoke softly and calmly. Cheeky and Rebecca began to feel a bit calmer under the magical influence of their psychologist friend. "That's exactly when Santiago was in the accident," Rebecca said almost in a whisper. "What if that accident happened because of this strange photo? You also think there's magic involved, right?" Cheeky asked passionately, jumping off the couch. "Chiquita, quiet down, don't scare our future mommy." Marita looked warmly at Rebecca, who was huddled in the corner of the couch. She looked unhappy and frightened. Someone just wanted to scare Rebecca. Or Santiago. Maybe competitors. "Bequita, you said Santiago had some mega important negotiations coming up, that his company could win the tender." "Well, yes, he went to those negotiations that day," Rebecca said with tears in her eyes. Silence hung in the air. Each was lost in their thoughts, but at the same time, they were all thinking the same thing: what all of this meant and how to figure it out. "I'm going to the cemetery tomorrow," Rebecca suddenly said quietly. "Why?" Cheeky flopped down on the couch next to her friends again. "I'm going to try to find out something about this monument. Why do you think it was ordered and exists in reality? Maybe it's just a picture?" Cheeky pressed on. "No, it's not a picture," Marita spoke up. "This is a photo of the product. We're going with you, Bequita." "Thank you, girls." Rebecca looked gratefully at her friends. The cemetery greeted the friends with silence and the chirping of birds. Marita parked near a small building where flowers, wreaths, monuments, and other similar items were sold. "Just stay calm," she warned Rebecca. "You need to think about the baby." "I'll try, Mari." Rebecca opened the door and stepped out of the car. "Do you want me to go with you?" Cheeky was already preparing to follow her friend. "No, I'll go alone," Rebecca replied quietly and headed toward the little house. "Yes, this monument was ordered from us," the man in the black shirt said briefly. "Back in April. That woman even paid extra for speed." "What woman?" Rebecca felt she was losing control. Her hands began to tremble slightly. "A dark-haired woman. Short and with a scar on her left cheek." "Yes, exactly. A scar, jagged. Reminds me of a dog bite or something like that. My friend has something similar after his dog bit him when he was a child." Rebecca also knew someone with such a scar. And everything else matched too. The quiet Lorena Lopez, her classmate. It couldn't be. So many years had passed. There were even rumors that she had been sent to a juvenile detention center right after finishing middle school. Why would she do this? Maybe Lorena really has nothing to do with it. All that was left was to guess. Can you give me her phone number? Rebecca asked. That's against our policy. The cemetery attendant began to hesitate. Though he might not have been an attendant, that didn't matter. This monument was ordered by a woman who is interested in my death or something like that. Rebecca took off her dark glasses. This is my photo on the monument. The man flinched. Fine. But please don't spread it around that the client's contact was given here, so there are no extra conversations. I don't want problems with the management. Fine. I won't say anything. Just give me the number of this prankster, please. A minute later, Rebecca was heading to Merita's car, clutching the number of Lorena Lopez written on a piece of paper in her fist. Do you remember Lorena? She asked her friends as she got into the car. Which Lorena? The friends replied in unison. Lorena Lopez. That quiet girl who always carried that same silly bag since elementary school? Cheeky pondered. The girl who killed her stepfather many years ago? Merita started the engine. Do you know something about this? Rebecca was surprised. Of course. Our town is small. Information flows like water. They say she got 7 years. Her whole life went downhill. And all because of her mother, Merita concluded bitterly. Why didn't you tell us about this before? Cheeky fidgeted in her seat. Who cared back then? We were preparing for graduation and all that. But why would Lorena Lopez want to scare Bequita? And how did that photo end up on Santiago's phone? Damn. I'm telling you, it's the mistress. Cheeky slapped her knee. What does the mistress have to do with this? Rebecca shot a glance at her friend. My husband didn't have any mistress. Sorry. Maybe she was a secret admirer of your Santiago. What if she knew him or was somehow connected to him? I want to talk to her, Rebecca said coldly. I have her number. Let her tell me everything herself. Just don't meet with that. Lorena, Cheeky said anxiously. Who knows what she has in mind? You'd better stay with me or Mari for now. It'll be safer. Maybe she's gunning for you and is quite capable of coming uninvited. First, we need to check the number you were given, Bequita. I'll do it. I have access to a certain website. I pay for it every month, after all. You're quite the detective, Mari. Rebecca smiled for the first time in a long while. I've always loved detective stories and thrillers, her friend smiled back. Merita was intently staring at the computer screen. Yes, it really was Lorena Lopez. The quiet Lorena Lopez, the bookworm no one befriended in class, who also kept her distance from the other kids. Her mother changed partners almost every year, and she couldn't care less about her daughter, even though Lorena excelled in her studies and dreamed of leaving her hometown. Merita remembered the girl with perpetually greasy hair. Lorena Lopez always wore the same clothes. It seemed that at the start of each school year, they bought her a school uniform, but only one. Even her blouse was always the same. No one paid attention to the strange Lorena, who always wandered the school corridors alone with a notebook in her hands and a pencil stub in the pocket of her school vest. Merita also remembered that Lorena loved cats. To the point of obsession. She even once said she dreamed of getting a kitten, but her mother never allowed her to do so. What else could Merita remember about this girl? Probably nothing. It seemed she had a crush on Pancho Cortez, that goof who always chased after Rebecca. She had certainly tried to shake him off more than once, but he never stopped trying to win her heart. The eternal triangle, Lorena was in love with Pancho, who, in turn, was head over heels for Rebecca, who couldn't have cared less about either of them. Rebecca's greatest love during those years was literature. No wonder she became a literary editor, and a very good one at that. Marita was trying to understand why Lorena Lopez would do such a thing. Why order a monument for a former classmate she never even interacted with? Did she really hold a grudge against her? Childhood grudges are strong feelings. Marita knew this not by hearsay. She had been working with childhood traumas for several years, mainly with adults. Rebecca Ramos was slowly walking along the roadside toward her home. In her bag, she carried a bottle of pomegranate juice. Lately, she couldn't sit down to work without this drink. That day she was set to start editing a new book. The title was strange, A Leap into Oblivion. It seemed to be written by a psychiatrist, though perhaps not entirely by him, but the idea was his. Sitting down with such a book without pomegranate juice was akin to committing a crime. The little one reminded her of himself again with a light feeling of nausea. But Rebecca welcomed this sign, for it heralded that soon she would hold her little one, their child with Santiago, close to her heart. She still didn't know if it was a boy or a girl, but, in essence, she didn't care. A voice coming from the left pulled Rebecca out of her thoughts. "Excuse me, can you help me?" asked a creature in a clown costume, pressing against the roadside in her old car. Yes, of course. Rebecca stopped and stared at the costumed figure. As far as she could tell, it was indeed a woman. "There's some confusing address here." She began rummaging in her glove compartment. Rebecca peeked inside the car through the rolled-down window. Suddenly, she caught a sharp smell, and then a wet cloth covered her nose and mouth. Everything swam before her eyes, and in an instant, she plunged into darkness. "Did you talk to Rebecca today?" Cheeky asked, popping in for a couple of minutes at Marita's. "No. I texted her, but there's still no response." Her friend glanced at the phone lying on the kitchen table. At that moment, a message arrived. "Shall we meet at our spot?" "It's urgent." "I'm already here," Marita read aloud. "Our Rebecca at the cabin?" Cheeky was surprised and stared at her friend. "I haven't been there in ages. I thought it was long gone. This is all strange. We need to go there urgently." The message wasn't from Bequita. "What? That's her number." "That doesn't mean anything. Anyone could have sent it." "Anyone? Or Lorena Lopez," the friend said in unison and rushed out of the house. Marita had never driven this fast in her life. Next to their town was a sort of settlement, a green island planted with trees. The friends called this place the Forest. There was a rundown little house. It had become their secret meeting spot. They could discuss things in peace or even throw a party away from everyone. After finishing school, they hadn't gone back there. They had even forgotten about the existence of that dilapidated little house hidden among the trees. They had to search for this little house. You wouldn't find it right away. This had attracted Cheeky, Marita, and Rebecca back then. They had already covered more than half the distance when a similar message came to Cheeky. "That stupid creature," she cursed and was about to reply, but the level-headed Marita stopped her. "Don't even think about answering her, Chiquita. You might ruin everything." "Just right, okay," and add a smiley, like I did a few minutes ago. "All right, you're right, as always," Cheeky said through clenched teeth while typing her response. She was filled with anger towards Lorena Lopez and fear for Rebecca. They turned onto a rural road. "What if she has a gun or something?" Cheeky suggested. "It doesn't seem like she would use a weapon, but we should stay alert," Marita replied, stopping the car just short of that spot where the little house was hidden among the bushes. Marita had a pepper spray on hand. She took it out of her bag and kept it ready in her pocket. When they approached the familiar shack, a chill ran down her spine. There was a fresh grave near the little house. A grave with a monument, the very photo that Rebecca found on her husband's phone. "No," Cheeky whispered and rushed forward. Marita followed her friend, gripping the pepper spray in her hand. Cheeky pulled the door toward her, but it wouldn't budge. "It's me!" Marita shouted and pressed her finger to her lips, signaling Cheeky to stay quiet and not to stick her neck out too soon. Cheeky obeyed. Behind the door, there was some rustling, and then they saw a clown. What the hell? Cheeky cursed. She couldn't handle the rush of emotions. Her muscles were tense to the limit. Where's Rebecca? Marita asked calmly. The clown didn't answer, just signaled that they could enter. Only then did the girls notice a stun gun in his hand. The door was locked again with a rusty bolt. On the sagging couch lay Rebecca. She was either asleep or unconscious. Or... no. Both friends pushed that thought away. Rebecca never did you any harm, Lorena, Marita said slowly, turning to the clown. How did you figure me out, redhead? She tossed off her clown wig and removed her round red nose. I'm saying, let's talk. We can calmly discuss everything and not cause anyone any harm. Talk? You want me to talk? Lorena stretched out her hand with the stun gun, ready to press the button and activate it at any moment. Yes, talk, Marita replied, not losing her composure. We're all human, and humans have the ability to negotiate and reach a compromise, for example. You seem pretty smart. I didn't have time to read any smart books in the juvenile detention center. I had to survive there. Lorena's face turned red, and beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. I'm sorry, but it's not my fault you ended up there, nor is it Cheeky's or Bequita's. You three are such sweethearts. So white and fluffy. Because of your Bequita, as you call that bitch, Pancho died. And you've all forgotten who he is. Of course, you're stars. You don't have time for that. Pancho? Pancho the little bear? Cheeky interjected into the conversation. It's all because of Rebecca. Her parents hid the fact of his death and left town even before I ended up in the colony. Bitterness and despair echoed in Lorena's voice. What did you do to Rebecca? Marita asked as she approached her friend, who was starting to regain her composure. I put her to sleep for a while, Lorena smirked. Now that we're all here, let's get to business. I have no desire to talk to you, bitches. So let's wrap this up quickly. 3 girlfriends went to the cabin in the woods to reminisce about their youth and ended up, how sad. Lorena stepped closer to Cheeky and pressed a taser to her shoulder. Stop, Lorena. I really can help you. I remember you weren't a bad girl. You loved to draw, and you wrote beautiful poems. I'm sorry, I once couldn't help myself and peeked into your notebook. It was wonderful. I never told anyone about it, but I still remember. There were poems about love and the cats. Suddenly, Cheeky's bag, which she had thrown on the floor, started moving, and desperate meowing came from it. A kitten! Cheeky exclaimed, rushing to the bag, forgetting about the taser, and its owner could press the button at any moment. I found it by the road when I was coming to you, Mari. Cheeky unzipped the bag, and an absolutely black kitten, no bigger than a child's palm, cautiously crawled out. Oh my! What a miracle! Lorena suddenly said, squatting down but still holding the taser. My mother was always against having a kitten in the house. She said they smelled bad. But a new guy came along every year. And how they all stank, Lorena grimaced in disgust. I didn't know that Pancho had died, Rebecca croaked. How did it happen? He stupidly slit his wrists. He wrote your name, Rebecca, on the mirror. And he rejected me. I was in love with him. I wanted so badly to be with him, but he said I wasn't his type, that I was strange and always wore the same thing, that my mother drank all the time and changed men like gloves. I cried all night after his words. And a few days later, I found out he was gone. Pancho came to me once after graduation rehearsal and gave me a ring. I didn't take it. No, I didn't laugh at him or try to humiliate him. That's not my character at all, but I was honest with him. I just told him I didn't love him and that he would definitely meet a girl with whom he would be happy. Suddenly, something strange happened. One by one, all the girls began to sit on the floor. They didn't care that it was dirty, covered in garbage, ash, and some other crap. A circle formed. This often happens in psychological training. In the center sat a little black fluff ball, meowing plaintively. Lorena threw her taser away and picked up the kitten. "Is it a girl?" she asked Cheeky. "I don't know, I didn't have time to look," Cheeky shrugged. "No, it's a boy, definitely a boy," Lorena concluded while examining the animal. "This is Carlos." "Why Carlos?" Rebecca asked weakly. "I don't know, but for some reason, when I was little, I really wanted a kitten named Carlos." Lorena pressed the kitty to her chest. It purred loudly. For a while, everyone was silent. "You know, I wanted so much to be one of you," Lorena suddenly spoke up. "But you didn't notice the nerd with greasy hair and a blouse the color of donkey urine. You three were so bright, so cheerful, always coming up with something. And you had a secret place. I once followed you. Lorena, forgive us. We were so fickle," Marita said quietly. "I personally thought you were all about studying, wanting to get into a prestigious university. Yes, I wanted that. I really wanted to, but everything went off the rails when that idiot, Javier Gomez, started hitting on me. I pushed him away, and the fatso hit his temple against the corner of the nightstand and died on the spot. And then I ended up in the colony. My mother didn't protect me. Instead, she blamed me for all the sins in the world, called me a creature that deprived her of her happiness. I think if she hadn't completely drunk herself into oblivion before my release, I would have killed her with my own hands. I hate her. I lost 7 years. I had to sleep with one girl who took a liking to me. She was an authority there. I agreed to survive, so they wouldn't beat me or kill me at night. It was a nightmare." Rebecca sniffed, then burst into tears. "Lorena, I'm so sorry that everything turned out so horribly. I'm sorry I didn't notice you at school. I thought you looked down on us, that you were too good to even say hello. What a fool I was." No one said a word in response. "Did you prepare a grave for me? Or for all of us? I was so angry at you, Rebecca. I accidentally ran into your husband at a corporate party. I somehow got a job at their company. I wanted to start a new life, but then I realized who his wife was. Your photo popped up on his phone screen. It felt like everything inside me boiled over, and I wanted to take revenge on all of you. So I ordered that stupid tombstone and sent a photo to Santiago. And then I found out he died in a car accident. I didn't sleep all night. I realized I was responsible for his death. It was definitely all because of that photo. I wanted to scare you, him, all of you. I just wanted everyone to feel as miserable as I have all these years, and in general, since childhood." Tears streamed down Lorena Lopez's flushed cheeks. "What if we get drunk?" Cheeky suggested. "Oh, I forgot that Bakita can't drink," she winked at her friend. "Pregnant?" Lorena asked. "Uh-huh," Rebecca simply replied. All four spent the night at Cheeky's place. The kitten Carlos, by the way, also spent the night there. They couldn't quiet down for half the night. They reminisced about school, carefree childhood, and youth, teachers, and some classmates. "How great that you didn't kill us all, Lorena," Cheeky giggled. Chiquita, Marita looked reproachfully at her friend. "Oh, come on." Lorena waved her hand. "It's true, how would I go on living? I would already have 4 deaths on my conscience," she sighed. "Okay, enough. Let's talk about something good instead. Tomorrow, I want to turn the tombstone into a work of art. Instead of the inscription and photo, let's put up a poster with our 4 of us. What do you think of that idea?" Rebecca stared at her friends. "No, better let's smash it to bits. I hope Lorena didn't order a very expensive tombstone, and 4 crazy girls can definitely handle it." Cheeky made a funny face. They all burst out laughing. The girls went to pick up Rebecca from the maternity hospital. 4 days ago, she had given birth to a wonderful baby girl. "I call dibs on being the godmother," Cheeky exclaimed. "It's not up to you to decide, Chiquita. Marita said cheerfully. Rebecca said she wanted to draw lots. Lorena smiled. They threw a real feast. Marita prepared various salads and baked pizza. When Rebecca laid her daughter, named Alicia, down, the friends drew lots to find out who would be lucky enough to become the godmother. Empty, Cheeky sighed in disappointment. Me too, Marita smiled. Everyone looked at Lorena. She was glowing with happiness and cheerfully waved her paper, which had a red star drawn on it. This meant that Lorena had the honor of baptizing Alicita. Thank you, girls, Lorena said earnestly. For what? Rebecca asked, looking warmly at her future godmother. For accepting me, for not pushing me away even when I... Lorena, don't mention that. Everything is good now. Better tell us, did you get into university? Marita asked. Yes, soon I will be a veterinarian. Well, I thought you'd be Alicia's nanny, Rebecca stretched. And I could work. Classes are in the evenings. We'll manage. Lorena took her hand. The cabin in the woods had not been forgotten. The friends took its condition seriously and all together invested money in its renovation. The once dilapidated building was transformed into a cozy nest where they could gather. It was decided to keep an eye on the forest cabin to preserve the memory of the place where the three friends found the fourth. Time flew by unnoticed. The lives of the four friends also didn't stand still. That year, Cheeky, Lorena, and Marita started families. Only Rebecca was unable to forget her beloved husband and had not yet met her other half, but she was not upset about it, as she had a daughter who resembled Santiago both externally and internally, the best friends in the world, and her beloved job. That day, Cheeky, Rebecca, Lorena, and Marita decided to throw a party for the children. Just in time, there was a reason. The school year had ended and summer vacation had begun. They decided to celebrate in their favorite hideaway. Marita's husband even once attached a sign to the cabin, which he had ordered somewhere, that read, Kingdom of Friendship. Rebecca stayed to look after the kids while the trio of friends went to buy supplies. Rebecca sat on the low porch, enjoying the fresh air and the silence of the forest. The door to the house was open, so she could hear every word spoken by the children. My mom is a psychologist, said curly-haired Mona. She can solve any person's problem. Not any, Milena retorted. She can't heal a pet. Do you know what a problem it is for a person if their cat, dog, or, for example, rabbit is sick? But my mom can cure an animal in 5 minutes. Yeah, girls, your moms are certainly awesome. But with Spanish, only Rebecca can help me. She's got it all sorted out. Laughed Macario, Cheeky's son. By the way, did your mom forget that she promised to do face painting for me? Alicia asked him. How am I supposed to know your girl stuff? Macario jumped to his feet and ran to the window. There's a squirrel. Marita smiled. They were so funny. And they talked so much like adults. Suddenly, a tiny dog appeared on the forest path. It seemed like it was looking for someone. It had a sad and lost look. Could it be lost? Rebecca thought and called the little one. The dog joyfully ran up to her. It was still a puppy, fitting in 2 hands. A tiny collar had a metal tag hanging from it. Ricky, Rebecca read. On the other side was the owner's phone number. Rebecca quickly dialed that number. Yes? Answered a pleasant male voice. Hello. I think I found your dog, Ricky. Hello. Really? Where? It ran into the woods. Let's meet by the last house in the village. Rebecca didn't plan to show some stranger their hideaway. She didn't want people coming here. This was their special place. It just happened that no one ever came here. Cheeky called the cabin enchanted, meant only for them. Rebecca shouted to the kids that she would be back in 10 minutes and, picking up the puppy, headed to the village. When she arrived at the agreed place, they were already waiting for her. An 8-year-old boy was eagerly tugging at his father, who was trying to calm his son down. Ricky, seeing his owners, began to squirm out of Rebecca's hands. "Here's your lost one," she said cheerfully. "Thank you so much," the man said earnestly. "This is for you," the boy shyly said, handing her a bouquet of daisies. "Thank you, my dear. Don't lose Ricky again. It's a good thing the puppy found me and not someone who might hurt him." Rebecca caught the father's gaze. "My name is Manuel," he smiled. "And this is my son, Marcos. Nice to meet you." "I'm Rebecca." "Nice to meet you too." Manuel looked warmly at Rebecca. "Well, I must go," she said. "The kids are waiting for me." "Yes, of course." "Thanks again," Manuel replied. Rebecca walked along the path toward the forest cabin, feeling warm in her heart for some reason. What was this? Such warmth was only given to her by Aliceta, the joy of her life, the last gift from her beloved husband. Could it be that the bouquet of daisies from this mischievous little boy had touched her so deeply? Or was it the words and gaze of his